Oh, I am really looking forward to this topic today. Everyone at some point in their career, not everyone, sales, marketing, leaders, you've all had this problem. You've had to hire salespeople. And there's a very unique way that my next guest, Travis Janko, has discovered through his career. And he is going to join us today. Good to see you, my friend.
Nice to see you, Tony.
It's good to see you. Well, now, where are you based today?
Denver, Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. So, complete side note, but the Atlanta Braves are playing the Rockies right now,
Oh, great.
and
Well,
I've discovered that they are the worst team in baseball.
the Rockies.
The Rockies.
Every year, so
They have four wins. The 4 wins for the entire year.
they're consistent. So
They're
as long
very consistent. I mean, it's very difficult to be that bad consistently. Um, and that's just too bad. That's just too bad because you guys have probably just gotten out of your snow season, right?
somewhat. I
I
mean,
can't believe
it's gonna
that. Here
snow
we
in
what's the date today? April 30 and you're still getting snow.
April 30th. They're gonna get about a foot of snow in the mountains this weekend. But we're in the 60s here in Denver, so we're good.
That's unbelievable. Really, that's kind of unbelievable to me. So my team just put together this new little look at this little thing right here.
Nice.
So if you're new to the Jobtopia podcast, please, I'm told I'm supposed to tell you to subscribe. So there you go. I'll keep my marketing team happy. And after we're done, we're going to have all the links to Travis and his company. You can find links to him and everything that he does. So, Travis, how did you get into, first of all, recruiting in the first place? And then, secondly, how is it that you discovered this kind of secret sauce within the sales kind of function? How did this unfold for you?
Yeah, Tony, not the typical recruiter story for sure. I was a sales leader for over 20 years, and I would say over half that time in the SaaS startup space, so the tech startup space. And my very first startup that I worked for, there was 35 people. It was kind of like the Wild West. Everybody did everything. We had a recruiting department, and the recruiting department did a great job of me spending 4 to 5 hours a day of interviewing people on site that I didn't want to hire, but I had to. So I wasn't with my team, but I was interviewing people. And I would give them the playbook. This is the perfect candidate. This is who I want to talk to. And it never happened. So I spent 3 months teaching myself how to source candidates. And I would get up at 4 a.m. every morning and I would source candidates. And we went from 35 people to 600 in 3 years in that company. And I probably sourced about 250 of them.
Wait,
Um,
how much did you scale?
we went from 35 to 600. The name of the company was Trulia. We ended up exiting for 3.5 billion. I make it sound really easy. there was
Yeah,
a
I mean, you just skipped over like a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears there, but it was my first startup, so I thought, man, this is startup life. But we made it. We figured it out. We did it. My next startup, I was the first salesperson building a whole team in Denver. The first day the power was out, I was building IKEA desks in the dark, closing deals on my cell phone. We needed to build an outbound machine of 100 people, and we hired 3 recruiting companies. And after 3 weeks, I fired all 3 recruiting companies and I
Uh
started
oh.
at 4 a.m. every morning and sourcing candidates again. We grew that in a year and a half to 150 people. Our exit there was a little lower. It was 3.5 million, still a really good exit. Um, moved from there, long story, but it all makes sense. Moved from there to I started being basically a fractional go to market specialist where I would help startups figure out they had a product, people would buy it, but they didn't know how to sell it. They didn't know how to lead teams. So I would come in and do that. And I found myself spending a lot of time helping them hire people. And I had the aha moment. I love doing this. Um, I tried doing both, but I learned a long time ago to niche your niche and do what you're best at, what you love, and recruiting was the thing. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah, it's amazing when people get the juice of recruiting. It's very hard to get it out of your system because it's very rewarding, very fulfilling. Just because you get to work with so many different people, you meet a lot of amazing people, you're changing lives. But it's been said a million times, recruiting is a contact sport, and you can take that both ways. You got to
Yeah.
reach out, you got to talk to a lot of people, but it's also very physically demanding too. It's very exhausting. I remember, I'd come home at night after making all the calls and talking to everybody, and I'd be exhausted. Um, and you learn very quickly what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
So let's jump into your area of expertise. Now, I know you've niched into helping SaaS companies, but what we're going to talk about today, these your rules, if you will, they apply. Okay, it's not just to SaaS,
Yeah.
but that's where your expertise has come in, and I know that this is where a lot of companies and people that are listening, if you're in a software as a service company, Travis is definitely the guy you want to talk to if you're trying to scale up on the sales side. But go ahead and kind of run us through what would you say the top 4 or 5 rules are for hiring experienced sales leaders.
Sales leaders. That's a lot to unpack, but we'll kind of go through this, Tony, like step by step. I think the first um, step one would be your 4 Ws, and that is first off, why are you hiring a sales leader? Like, what pain are you trying to solve, or what gain are you trying to solve? I would say a lot of times I will speak with a potential client, and they'll say, "Hey, I need a sales leader." And once we unpack that and we start talking through it, sometimes we realize they don't actually need a sales leader. They need something else. So it's really understanding the why. I would say number two would be when. Know when you need that person. It's not just, oh crap, we need to hire somebody tomorrow. I mean, it's the end of the month. Tomorrow is May. And if you need a sales leader in May, you're already behind. So you need to understand when. I would say number three, and that is the what. And what I mean by the what is, what are they going to be doing? What are their KPIs? What is a win for them? Um, that's huge. And then the fourth and probably the biggest is who. So, what is that crystal ball candidate? Oftentimes, people say, I need a director of sales, a VP of sales, a head of sales, and then they just go build a job description. They start hunting, but they don't think about who's going to be perfect for us. Who is that perfect person? A great example is a lot of the clients I work with are founder led organizations, maybe 50 or less employees. And I talk to some of them and they say, hey, a hire didn't work out. And I learned they hired somebody from Salesforce. Look, if you're hiring somebody from a 3,000 person company, they have a person that does the thing. In a small company, you are the person that does the thing, and it's a super hard transition. So it's really about thinking about company size, the same type of company. Do you need to hire a leader, a builder, a player coach? Do you need to hire somebody who leads your leaders? That type of thing. So I think that's probably the first thing, and you need to look at that before you even dive into hiring. Um,
Yeah, so let's go back to that first point. Why are you hiring? Are you trying to solve a pain or are you trying to gain something? How do you talk me through some of your questioning that you might take a client through? So someone listening, maybe it'll help them maybe self-diagnose.
yeah, the first question I'm going to ask is, what are you trying to solve by this hire? What problems are you having? So a good example could be, um, I'm the only salesperson. I'm a founder, and I built the company. I'm a tech guy. I'm not a salesperson, but I'm selling because I have to. And it's time for me as my company is growing to step out of sales and start running the rest of the company. That could be a thing, right? Another thing could be that the why could be, we went in and we hired a sales VP. We have two salespeople on the team. We hired a 25-year veteran who's a sales VP, spent a lot of money, and they came in and did a whole lot of things, built a whole lot of processes, and our sales tanked. So now we understand those type. Does that make sense? Those are the type of questions you want to look at.
Hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to the person who's the founder who started a company, and this is across not just tech, but I mean, you get into, particularly food and beverage. These are the scientists, the food scientists, the people who just have a vision for what they want, and there's so many other aspects of the company that they need to be running. I find though that a lot of times it's the founder though that has the passion, that has the knowledge, and that's what's enabled them to be such great salespeople. Um, and I imagine that's very challenging for that leader to then find a salesperson who maybe doesn't have their background, if he doesn't have their passion. So my question for you is, how do you help that leader identify the right quality and characteristics and kind of culture of that person in that scenario?
Yeah, first it's breaking down the culture of the company and of the team, breaking down the leadership style, figuring out who has and hasn't worked in the past, and then, again, what they're trying to solve. So I think a really good example of this, Tony, would be, are they hiring a sales leader because they already have a team and they need somebody to come in and lead the team? Are they hiring a sales leader because they don't have a team and they need somebody to come in and build out the process and the playbooks and all of that? Do they need somebody to, so to speak, carry a bag and be a player coach and build it all out and then hire people? It's all about like understanding, again, going back to the who. So it's understanding who that who is, what they're going to be doing, what the dynamics are, and then even digging deeper into what is your average deal size, what is your sales cycle, what is your ARR, your annual reoccurring revenue right now. What does that look like? What type of quota are you thinking about? How are you planning to pay them? I want to see, does that all align? Does it all make sense? You don't want to hire somebody who is currently running a sales team that are selling $300,000 deals that take 9 months to close. And this is somebody who has an SMB sale that is a $5,000 annual recurring revenue sale that takes 3 days to close. Those two things aren't
They're
translatable.
not. They may not even be compatible with like the systems and the playbooks that you would be building. So that's really where you step in and help them understand. This is your current structure, and I have found that this it translates almost across all industries. When someone is hiring, they don't necessarily understand the size of the company. Like the size of their company matters,
Yeah.
and the size of the company that you're hiring from matters. You mentioned Salesforce. If you bring in someone from Salesforce and you bring them to a small, mid-sized company, you might think this is great because we're going to learn all their processes. Well, that person could be very siloed. That
Yep.
person, you might just be setting yourself up for failure, and that's why it's so important for you to understand, you know, who you're hiring and what that unique skill set is that they bring. Let's talk about the the win. Um, just how much time in general have you found? Now, of course, you can sometimes, I say, get lucky. The right person is at the right spot at the right time. But traditionally, we're talking about these people are probably currently employed. I mean, yes, there's always the exception.
Yep.
How much time does it take? How do you kind of, T minus 3 months, 4 months? How do you plan this out?
Traditionally, especially in my space, in the SaaS startup space, not my numbers, but traditional numbers, you're looking at, if you're going to hire a sales leader and this is your first time doing it, you're looking at a 3 to 6 month runway probably. Um, in our case, we're typically going to be somewhere between 28 to 35 days, start to finish. But again, we're doing a lot of groundwork and legwork ahead of time, making sure that they're actually ready to hire. And we're doing all the things, figuring out that crystal ball candidate. But for the most part, if somebody says, we need a VP or a director or a leader, a sales manager, whatever in place, and this is their first time, probably, if you do it right, it's probably going to take you 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think people I don't think people realize just how long it takes because the best people are being productive in their current company.
Yep.
And I know we're not going to get into counter offers and that kind of stuff, but you can't just expect that they're just going to the current client's just going to let them walk out the door. I mean, that's why it takes a little bit of time because you have to bake in those kind of unforeseen things. I mean, yes, you can look for the signs that this person might be attracted to a counteroffer, but 3 months is basically everything goes very smoothly. 6 months, we're having a hard time pulling people away. You know,
Yeah,
that's
and
probably
if you're dialed in, again, if your team is completely dialed in, Tony, and you get it and you know all the things, you can get that person in a month, 2 months. But again, it takes a lot. A lot of people just think we're ready to hire, let's go do it. But there's so many internal things that need to be prepared, which we'll talk about in the next step, and that'll kind of make sense.
yes, and I guess that's what we're talking about. Like what are the KPIs? What's the win?
Yeah, and that's the big thing. You have to know what the win is. We can't just hire somebody and say, "Hey, we're struggling a little bit. We need help. Let's go." We need to know what a win looks like, and before you even think about hiring, you should figure that out. Like, if once we know who they are and what they're going to be what they're going to be doing, what does a win look like? How do we know that they've succeeded? And that could be we need to hit this number. It could be that there's nothing built out because everything is up here in the head of the founder who's doing it, and they haven't been able to properly articulate that. And so this person, if it's set up properly, can come in and build all the things out. The issue with that, Tony, is what usually happens is, all right, we've hired you. Now I'm going to step away from sales a little bit. So I need you to go hit the numbers I was hitting, but I also need you to build all these things out. You're going to be paid a commission off of what you're selling, but I need you to go build all these things out. And in the meantime, let's start hiring people. And that's a recipe for disaster. You need to understand what are those steps. First, KPI, if it's not built out, by the way, it should be. But if it's not, um, how long can you work with this new sales leader to build the scalable and repeatable process? Let them go try, test, adjust, do it over and over. Bring the team in to build the things that are needed to be built if there's a team. Then have them go do it. So, first, it's build it. Second is do it. And then third, once you know that it's done, it's built, it's scalable and repeatable, now it's time to start bringing people in. And then fourth is start coaching and training. But what we have a habit of doing is we need to go fast and we just want to hire them and hope everything happens. And it's a recipe for disaster because we haven't planned properly ahead.
You know, when I've recruited salespeople, one of the first things that they really want to ask and get into and understand are the KPIs. What are they going to be judged on? And you just brought up that if a founder is trying to step out of the role and have all these other aspects added to the company, you're really asking that person to do three different jobs. And you know, they're I'm sure you're very savvy around this, and so are the people that you're hiring and attracting, is that you have to build the compensation around the work and the tasks that they're going to be doing. So if you're building playbooks and understanding and infrastructure work, that is not sales. And so you cannot tie that person's compensation to just simply a commission number because what happens is the path of least resistance. I mean, if you are going to force people to get paid primarily on deals, what are they going to focus on?
Yep.
Deals. And if they're supposed to be hiring, then you should have KPIs around hiring. So I think it's a brilliant way to go about what is a win. Because if you can't identify what the win is, then you don't have the KPIs, you don't know how to structure the sales plan, and those salespeople will figure that out like right away. They're gonna go, you're unorganized, they promised this, I got paid that, you've got misaligned expectations and turnover.
I agree. The other point to that is just because it's time for the founder to step out of sales and they're hiring a new person, their first salesperson, their first sales leader, just because they're ready to, upon hiring that person is the worst time to step out. It's actually you need to step in more. You need to be there to make sure you're helping, you're removing obstacles, you're removing roadblocks, you're helping them, you're sharing your knowledge, you're sharing your passion with them. And once it's ready, then you step out. But
Great point.
you want to wait time.
Great point. This is not a great, I've hired someone, I'm stepping away. It should be, I've hired someone, I'm going to step in and be a lot closer. I don't know how long it's going to be different for every company, but I would mentally think you're minimum going to be there 6, 9 months. It probably needs to be 12 months. That's just, uh,
Yeah,
look,
I think
again,
it
it,
depends.
it depends.
Yeah,
I know it's like the lawyer. Ask a lawyer, what are they going to say? It
it
depends.
depends.
I get it. I mean, that's just how it goes. Um, I think the final point there too with the who and, what does the crystal ball, kind of person look like? Um, I think you can really uncover a lot about what's in that person, the hiring leader's mind when you get them to answer this. Um, is there, I know in IT, we used to use the expression purple squirrel. What do you still use? Is that phrase still used for like sales, or is there a new no, new nomenclature for you're out of your mind that doesn't exist?
Yeah, unicorns, purple squirrels, whatever that looks like. Yeah, they're oftentimes I will be talking to a client and they'll say, "Yeah, this is who we need," and then they'll go through all of the list. And sometimes all I need to do is read it back to them, and they might go, I guess that person doesn't exist. Or if they really don't exist, I'm going to go do a search and I'm going to show them literally in the United States, 5 people meet the criteria you're looking for. I'm going exaggerating a little bit, but I think we need to understand sometimes we go overboard because what happened, Tony, was we made a mistake on a hire before. So now we're going the other way and we're going way too picky on this hire. What we really just need to know is, do we need an architect? Do we need a player coach? Do they need to be in the same space? Will they fit into our company? And then we need to just keep thinking about what that looks like. And you should narrow it down to 3 things: the must haves in that candidate, like the red line, the line in the sand. They must meet this criteria, or we're not even going to talk to them. Then next is the nice to haves. It'd be really cool if they had these things. It's bonus points, but they don't have to. And then you have your knockouts. Your knockouts is, we're not going to talk to you if this thing happens, whatever that looks like. If you can figure that out, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, yeah, no, it does. What are you seeing any particular trends? I know we've got a kind of a topsy turvy, really kind of an unusual market right now with tariffs. I know people are trying to understand, what's happening out there. Since you're working with a lot of these tech founders and tech startups, um, from that angle, that perspective, what are you seeing in terms of just overall confidence or growth in the marketplace? What can you say about the tech space or even the hiring in this field?
Those are two totally different ones.
Oh, did I just ask two questions in one? I'm famous for
It's
doing
okay.
that.
It's okay. So I would say from what I'm seeing is everybody has a little bit of concern about what's going on right now. But I would say that the companies that are still in the right place at the right time and have the right systems are feeling pretty good. Some things never change though. There's the pitfall with some tech startups is that butts in seats syndrome versus hiring smart, hiring right. I've been doing this over 20 years and I still see that. Some companies have 4, 5, 10 people on a sales team and they're doing really, really well and they get a big round of funding. And suddenly we need to hire 30, 40 people and let's just flip a coin and see who works out. And that's a recipe for disaster. That hasn't changed in the entire time I've been doing this. It probably
I
won't.
see.
But a lot of companies are getting smarter and they're hiring right. The other thing that I'm seeing change, which is good, is in the old days, I say old days like a year ago, it was,
I guess in the IT world, that sort of is with Grok
oh
and
yeah,
chat.
it was kind of well, I really like them. I'm a little bit on the fence, but we need to hire somebody, and I think I can bring them along. So let's hire them. The
Like a
advice,
developmental people.
yeah, any salesperson, anybody in your company, we've all been there where we've interviewed somebody, we're talking
It's
to
like,
them.
I like them. Like,
I really like them. I don't love them. I'm on the fence, but
let's
they
just hire
might
them.
do okay. Let's hire them, and we know what happens. Um, Now, what I'm seeing is a shift to people understanding the advice that I give all the time, which is if you're on the fence, they're a no. That's it. If you love them, move as fast through the process without breaking your process as you can. And I think this is where I'm seeing companies start to get that. They're having that aha moment where we shouldn't talk to talent that aren't going to be a good fit. It wastes our time and it wastes their time. But if we love them, we got to keep them going. I remember when I would interview way back, years and years ago, and I might not hear back from a recruiter for a week, but that was kind of how it is. Today, if somebody doesn't hear back from a recruiter for 2 or 3 days, or whoever interviewed them, they're gone because they're already interviewing with 7 other companies anyway. So now it's like, how do I make them love me as much as I love them and keep them going, type of thing.
Yeah. As you were describing that process of love or like and the change, we went through a house hunt. And for those who've heard the story, I'll just keep it brief, but we spent about 18 months looking to buy a home. And when you go through something, you're trying to make a choice, a selection. It's going to be, you're going to, obviously you're spending a lot of money when you're buying a house. I think if you can kind of put yourself back in that mode of we're buying a house and you're not going to, it's got to, you want to feel the wow factor when you want to feel really excited that you're putting an offer in because you just found exactly what you wanted. And you would never say, I mean, there's always exceptions. I mean, you can come up with all kinds of weird scenarios where maybe, it was okay. Let's make an offer. Typically not. Typically not. So
Yeah.
when you said that, I instantly flashed back to how I felt. And I use the word feel, how I felt when I was looking for a home. And when we found this place in Cartersville, I literally spent 30 minutes on the outside of the house just walking the property because the guy was a professional landscaper. He had done so many amazing things, and I love landscaping. I'm kind of weird. I don't mind doing a bunch of yard work. It's very therapeutic for me. But the point was, it was such a wow factor for me
Yeah.
personally. So I knew this was it. We're going to have to move quickly. And I think if you can kind of translate that into your hiring process, like you would with a home, why would you spend money and time and effort on something that's like, yeah, it does fit the need, but it's not making my socks go up and down. Well, then don't do it.
Yeah, I agree. I would also flip the coin. If that first house you see is the one that is your dream home and it's everything on your list, don't go look at 35 other houses because this one will be gone. It's the same thing with that candidate. Sometimes the first candidate you see is that winning
Oh
candidate,
my
and
God. You
you
are
know
so
it, but you're
preaching to the choir. This has been the recruit. Okay. Little inside baseball talk here for people who are in recruiting. If you, I'm guilty of this. We've done this before in the past where you've got 3 or 4 candidates and one of them is head and shoulders above the rest. So you want to put them in with a group of people because the client wants to interview a number of people. If you just send that one great person and that's it, there's the psychology of I need to keep looking. But if you have a
yep.
great person and you send them in a group of 3 or 4 and they're all good, they're all qualified, that top person will stand out and they feel like they've had a chance to see them. That's my number one pet peeve. Great person walks in the door. Can we see a few more? No.
We could talk for three
We
hours.
could literally talk. We're not going to do that, but that's it's a huge thing for me.
Um,
Um, so Travis, what's the best way for people to connect with you if they are hiring these sales leaders and sales executives and they need help? What do you recommend?
You can check out my website, gsd-coach.com. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Either one of those would work. That kind of shows our services on there, what we do. I mean, we focus on sales recruiting. That's what we do. That's what I know. That's our niche within the niche. Um, Mostly working in the SaaS space, but we can help people even if you're not ready to hire. We can have a conversation and maybe help you.
That's what I think. That's what I think. If you're even thinking about hiring, then I would recommend, if you're going down that kind of unique sales space, I would totally agree. They should absolutely kind of start that conversation with you. As we wrap up here, do you use any unique interview process for salespeople? I've heard of top dressing. I've heard of all these unique ones. Is there any plug you want to make for the system or style you use?
One that I've built, almost have to be a whole nother podcast,
Oh
though.
my gosh. Well, there we go. There's a whole nother podcast
Yeah,
waiting for us. So you do have your own unique kind of proprietary
I
says. I was wondering about the books back there.
yeah. In the book, You of All People, I did put in a really killer four-step interview process, which is really going to walk you through all the things, all the questions, things like that. But if anybody wants to know, how do I know if I'm actually asking the right questions of a potential leader? Hit me up. I can help you with that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yes. Well, hopefully we've answered some questions, but more than likely we have opened up Pandora's box. And there's a lot more questions that we now have. But that's how it
Always.
goes here on the Jobtopia podcast. Travis, great seeing you. Glad we had
You
a
as well,
chance to
Tony.
kind of walk through these things again. Again, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or on the YouTube side of things, we totally appreciate the support. And Travis, we'll have all the links below in the show notes so people can find you. And if you've got links to those books, we'll get those up there too so people can find them if
Will
that
do.
would be helpful.
Sounds awesome, Tony. It was good.
All
It
right,
was good
everybody.
catching up again.
Great catching up with you again. And we'll do it again. We'll see you next time, folks.